Hi, this is Destiny from DeskFix and welcome back to another video in the hotel management system using Django. In this one, we're going to go ahead and start working with deleting items from the session and actually configuring our templates to perform better. That is what we'll be doing. Hopefully you will learn something new. So let's go ahead and get started. I will open up my code editor and I will open up the bookings app views PY, and down here I will create a new function and call this one delete session, or let's call it delete selection instead, and pass in a request parameter here as usual. And down here, what I want to firstly do is get the hotel ID. So let me explain what's going on. Now, whenever we make a call to this function, we have to append a hotel ID to the request. Now that hotel ID is what we will grab. And remember that when we saved items to the session, we appended a hotel ID to the items that were being saved in the session here. Okay. And that means whenever we want to perform an operation to any of the items in the session, we have to make sure that we associate it with a hotel ID to know the exact item that we want to tweak or perform an operation on. So we will be appending a hotel ID to this function over here. And to grab the hotel ID, we pretty much define a variable called hotel ID. And firstly, let's say request.get, and the name of the ID is called ID. So what we did is pretty much grab it like this. It's the same thing as saying request.get ID. Okay. Then we wrapped it up in a string just like this. But instead of doing it this way, let's just make it a little bit shorter and say request.get ID. All right. So after we've done this now, we also want to check if selection data object is in session. So if selection data object is in the session, then what do we want to do? Firstly, let's check if hotel ID in requests.session and this. So firstly, if selection data object exists, then we also check if this ID of the hotel exists in the selection data object. Then what do we want to do? We want to go ahead and say selection_data should be equal to request.session, and we grab this. Let me take this and put it. So what we did over here is pretty much got everything that is in the session related to this key and appended it to selection data. And after that, what I want to do is go ahead and say delete requests.session. I don't want to delete everything. So when I pass this in like this, it will delete every item that is in the session that has this key. But instead of deleting like that, I want to delete the one that has this ID appended to it. So this is how the session actually looks. Now, for example, we have this and one will be appended. So when one is appended, we know that it's hotel 1. When 2 is appended, we know that it's hotel 2, and so on. So by appending this hotel ID here, we are appending this ID and telling Django, hey, delete this selected session that has this particular ID that was sent deleted. Okay. So after we've done that, that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and say request.session, and we grab this. So fix the indentation so we don't have a bug. Should be equal to selection data. So in case you don't understand what's going on, let me explain. Firstly, we grabbed the selection data, which is the current session. Then we modified the selection data and updated the selection session over here. Okay. Hopefully you understood what went on. And after that, that's pretty much everything that we want to do. The only thing left now is we need a way to actually communicate to the front end that the session has changed, so that it updates the data. Okay. Like the total days, the total days, the check-in days, the check-in time, not the check-in dates and check-in time. I think when we delete room, it should just update the price. Okay, but you know what, I will just put in everything that we have to it. Let me open this. Let me open this up, the views PY, and I want to grab this. Firstly, pick this up, and I will put it over here in booking. Here. All right, let me put it side by side so we see what we're doing. So after doing that, we have total days over here. We have room count, we have adults, children, check-in, check-out, and we also need hotel. So I will grab this hotel none and just put it down there. Okay, so after we've done all this, we firstly need to start off by checking if selection data exists. So I'm just copying the code that we've written before. We don't have to rewrite all this again. So after you've done this, then go ahead and grab this for loop over here all the way to total price. So grab this and put it here. So that's it. For the date time, we need to import that. Okay, this is it. Now at the top, we import that over here. So now we shouldn't have any bug. So after we've done that, that's pretty much everything that we want to do. Close this up. This is my booking views PY, right? Now let's go ahead and register this in. But before I do that, I want to go through this code just one more time to make sure that everything looks okay as expected. ID, children, adults, check-in, check-out, room type. Okay, so there is one thing that I actually forgot. When we make all this, we need a way to communicate and pass this data as a response to the front end. So I will create a new context, and this one I will say render to strings. That means I need to import render to string at the top. So from Django I don't have that right. From Django template loader, I need to import render to strings. So over here, what I would do is say render to strings, and the HTML template that we want to render will be called hotel. Now I will have a folder called async and selected underscore rooms.html. So in case you don't understand, let me explain what's going on. Now, as soon as we make a call to this API, Django will pretty much run all this code here and send some response back to our front end. So we need a way to update our template. And one of the best ways of doing that in Django and JavaScript is to pretty much append a new template with all the data that you will be needing. Okay, so that is why this is the new template we'll be appending, and the data that we want to be appending will be this. So data, and firstly we need the request.session. We need a session that is called this, because you might as well have multiple sessions in your program. And we also need total selected items. That is how we will now know how many items that we have added to the cart. Let me just call it cart. So that one will be the same thing over here, but wrapped in length function. Okay, so after we've done that, we also need a couple of things. You know what, I will break this apart so that it's more readable and everyone can see. Break this apart from here. Break this also. Then if you want, you could break this, okay, and also break this apart. Then let's break that apart also, so that everything is readable. I hope this is better. So let me fix the indentation. There you go. So we have this. Now we need total. This is just like a dictionary, guys. Hopefully you already know how dictionary works. We need total days, and we need adults, and we need children, okay, and we need check-in, and what else do we need? We need checkout also, obviously, checkout, and we need hotel, so passing the hotel instance. Okay, so after we've done that, that's pretty much everything that we want to do. So if you want, you could go ahead and print data or print context to see what we actually send into the front end. So I will print context. You will see that when we run the code. And now let's go ahead and return this context to the front end by sending it in a JSON response. So I will say data, and what we want to send is context. Simple as that. And if you want, you can still pass in this total items, this total selected items over here for easy access. Okay. If you don't want, you can still leave it out. It's totally up to you how you want to do this. There's just a lot of ways to do different things here. So for now, let's stop here. Okay. That's pretty much everything that we will be doing. Now, the next thing I think we should just do is straight up write the code to delete this item from the cart instead of waiting till the next video to do it. So what I will do now is, but before I do this, let me save this delete selection in the URL, in the booking URL. So part, and over here we will have views dot delete selected URLs, and the name should be delete selection. Okay, so after we've done this, now open up your custom JS, and over here, so for this one I will say documents dot on click of what. So on click of this over here, I will open up the selected rooms by the side here and look for the trash icon, which is this trash icon here. So it should be somewhere here. This is it, right? So we need to actually add something to the trash icon so that we will be able to know that we clicked on it. And one of the things that we need is, I think let's add a class, delete item. If you don't have it, add it already, delete item. What else do we need? We need some data. So I will say data dash item should be what? Just pass in ID, okay? So this ID that we have over here. And what else do we need? For now, I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much everything that we need. So back to our custom JS over here. Let me make this full screen so you can see. So back here, when we click on the delete item button, what do we want to do? We want to run a function. And what should that function do? It should console log deleted. So this is just for testing purposes. I will reload this page and click on this. That did not work. Let me give this a hard refresh and take a close look at the code again. Okay, let's try this out again. See, deleted. That is working now as expected. So the very first thing that we want to do is go ahead and grab the ID. So I will say, let ID be equal to this dot attribute. And what was the attribute called? The attribute that holds the ID is called the data item. So grab that. And over here now, when you log ID and reload this page, you should now be able to see the ID of whichever room you click on. So this ID is the one that we will now send back to the server that we wrote over here. See, to now know the hotel to delete, the hotel room to delete. Hopefully it's beginning to make sense. But we also need to go ahead and get the, let's get the button. So I will say the button that we'll be clicking on, I will say let button be equal to this $this. Okay, so after doing this now, let's send this data to the back end using Ajax. the URL that we want to interact with will be called booking slash, and what did we call it? Delete selection. Here you go. And the data that we will be sending to this back end, or that we'll be sending to the server, will be the ID. That's what we should have over here, and here ID. And why we called this one here ID is because over here, see, we are getting ID. Had it been what you have over here is banana, then that means over here you need to have banana. But here, you don't need banana here. That is because you called it ID here. But if what you had here is apple, then what you need to put over here is apple. Hopefully it's beginning to make sense. So let's stick to naming conventions, okay? And after that, we need to tell the type of data that we are sending, which is a JSON data. Before this function actually gets called and everything executed as expected, let's log deleting, okay? And after that, or you know what? Instead of logging deleting, let's use the button that we got at the top to say something like button.text, and let's add ... to it. Okay, so let's try this out. We click on this, see, it shows ... All right, that's it. Now, there are still a lot of things that you could do here. You could even get creative and say, in a HTML, add an I tag, say I, and over here, I put a class, FA-spinner, FA-spin, and let's try this out. Click on this, see, then it gives the spinning icon thing. So that's how it's done. Now, after we've done this, see, it will spin forever. That is because we haven't sent some data to the back end. Okay, we're actually sending data to the back end now, but we don't have any function to check if everything worked well, then make the icon to stop spinning and actually delete the room from the session. So I will say function, and in this function, I will pass in res. That is to get this response that we sent here. So to get this response, you need to pass in the parameter here. Note, you can still call it banana, okay? This is banana. So now when you go ahead and log the banana and reload this page and actually hit this, okay, yeah, we are getting an error, obviously. So what is the error that we are getting? It says template doesn't exist. That makes sense. So we need to create this template called async selected room HTML. We need to create it in the hotel template section over here. So new file, I just pasted that in, and as you can see, it automatically creates it. So now when I hit this button, see, something is happening. See, now this total selected item is 1. When I hit this one, the total selected item is 0. So guys, it's working now as expected, but the only problem is that we don't have a way to actually pop this out of here and, you know, make things work as expected. But if you reload this page now, see, we've got nothing in the room. That is pretty cool. So now let's add a couple more things. I've added this too, but we don't have a way to see that. We will still fix it later. Now, if we reload this page, see, we have 2 things now. So now that we know that something is actually coming in, I will change this back to res, or you could call it response. As you can see, the banana worked. Naming, once you actually know how naming works, you will know where to call some things and where to use some text that you need to use, and, you know, pretty much whatever you want. I noticed that a lot of people actually get confused with naming and, you know, they find it difficult. For example, you ask me data type, should I call it banana? Or I know you shouldn't call it banana, but you're like, can I name it whatever I want? Like, can I call it whatever? No, you can't call it whatever you want because it's actually coming from Ajax, okay? It's a predefined keyword. But the one that you could call whatever you want is this one over here. It's a variable. You can call it whatever you want, okay? So hopefully you get a point. Now, what I need to do is firstly go ahead and, you know what I will do? I will start off by changing something. Open up the selected rooms, this one over here, and all the way at the top, I want to add a class called selection list. So add this class called selection list. And the very first thing that I want to do back in my custom JS is to say dot selection list dot HTML should be what? It should take response dot data. That means whenever we submit a data here, the new data that will be updated, like the new updated rooms and amounts, will be stored in this selected room that we have nothing in it yet. Hopefully you understand what's going on. Let me click on this now. See, it's empty because over here we have nothing. Now, when we click on that, what we pretty much did is swap out the initial selected room and show a new template that will now contain whatever we want. So over here, we can now say something like yay. And when you reload this page, don't expect to see yay. That is because when you reload the page, it will render the initial template, which is this one. But when you perform an operation, it will now show you yay. I hope that's beginning to make sense. So instead of showing yay, which really does not make sense, let me show something that, makes more sense. So I will reload this page. We shouldn't see anything else because we've removed everything from the room. Let's add a couple more things to the room and get back here. So now when we remove this, see, does that make sense? As you can see now, it automatically recalculates everything and it slides out that room. It's not like it's removed the room like that. What it's doing is replacing the template. Now, can you see that we have two headers? That is because over here in the selected rooms, we are still adding this extend thing. It's not needed. Get rid of it if you don't want to have two headers. Okay, so we are just like pretty much manipulating the DOM and adding our own new template instead of the old one. So when you refresh this, you can now still see this. Now, when I get rid of this, see, it just swipes out and it recalculates all these items over here. I hope this makes sense. So I'll add this back to the session and let's reload this page. See, now we've got two rooms at $600, 10 days. This is the checkout, check-in. Now, as soon as we remove this, see, it recalculates the amount and everything. I hope that's beginning to make sense and you can still fill this form in and hit continue. And okay, let's see what's going on here. Do we have a CSRF? I believe we should have a CSRF token here with a method of, okay, we can add a CSRF trust origin in the settings. But for now, let's fix everything that we need to do before we start doing that. So we have this. Now the deleting from cart is working perfectly well as expected. One more thing that I need is to add something over here at the top that shows the amount of items that we have in the session. So open up the base and you want to look for I will just search for TH because that's what the name of this icon is over here. Now I want to add, I will add one more. Instead of adding dashboard, let's change this, just remove that entirely. And this is what we have now. I could just say 1 and change the TH to bed. Okay. Now see, bed 1. But instead of bed 1, we need to add this one. Let me add it in a span element. And I will give it a class of room-count. So after giving it a class of room-count, in the custom JS success function here, what I will do is then grab the room-count. I will say dot room count dot text should be, so the text should be this total selected items that we are counting over here using the len. So to do that, just say res dot total selected items. And let me reload this page. Now we have 1, right? Let me get back to this page. It needs to be reloaded. So when I add another one, oh, that seems not to be working as expected. What's going on? Let me look at the base again. Firstly, let me start off by logging this. I will log res total selected items. Oh, yeah. The problem is because when we see this code over here, add to selection doesn't have these that actually adds the data. So now we are logging response here, right? And when you log response, see, it returns the total selected item in this variable here. That means we can say dot room count should be response dot this text here. So now when we add to cart, it should work well. Let me start off by removing everything that we have over here. There you go. And now when we add, it shows 1. When we add, it shows 2. I hope that makes sense now. Let's change this button over here to take us to the selected room. So I will say URL. Now it should go to hotel. What did we call the URL? We called it selected rooms. So that is where you should go. Now reload this page again. And now when you click on this, see, it brings us here. But did you notice something? See, now that's working 0. Did you notice something? When you add this, it shows 1. When you add, it shows 2. But when you reload, it goes back to 1 instead of maintaining the original amount. So that is actually quite nice that we actually saw that now. So to fix that, all I have to do is open up my base, and right here, I need to count how many items that we have in the session on the go and display it over there. So how can we actually do this? So to count this, I will say request dot session dot, then we have to call the name of the session. This is it here. So dot this, then pipe length to count how many items that we have there. Okay, let's add this in double braces. There you go, we have 2. So now when we open this up, you can see that we have 2. If I remove this, we have 1. When we reload, we should still have 1. When I remove this, we have 0. When we reload, we should still have 0. So guys, that's pretty much it. This one is working well. The last thing that we need to work on is this. When we click on this, let's change this button to say added or show a check mark. So to do that, I will open up my selected rooms, and this is the code that shows add to selection. Let me search for that. Add to selection. Okay, no, that's not it. It should be in room type detail. This is it. So now for that one, I want you to add this, add to selection, add it as a class, and after adding that as a class, let's see, also add this data type index should be r.id to grab the data type index. I believe we've done this before, right? So now what we need to do is in the custom JSX, we need to manipulate the code here. And remember that this is the button that we're grabbing, right? Now what we could do is here in the success, we could say, let me say button.text. Let's start with button.text and see if that works. I will say added, and let's reload this and see what happens. So we click on, see, that works, added. But instead of showing, I will say HTML, because you can see that it has this added to selection thing. Let me add an icon. We already have this icon thing down here. I will take this and put it here and make this a check mark. Okay, so check. Remove the spinning icon, that would not make sense, and change this to added to selection. But before it gets added to selection, I want it to be spinning. So take the spinning icon and pretty much put it here. and you could change this to processing. Okay, and now let's reload this page and see how all this works. So click on this, it shows processing for some time, and it shows added to selection. If you want to see the processing, just come over to your network tab, change throttling to 3G. So change it to fast 3G or slow 3G. It's up to you, the one that you want to use. Now, when you click on this, see processing, and it shows added to selection, processing, added to selection, and we get it shown up over here. So guys, that's pretty much it. We have this else that shows up here, which I don't really like. Let me see what's going on in the base. Okay, this is it here. Do make sure to end this up so you don't get a bug. There you go. So guys, that's pretty much it. Everything is working well, and hopefully you enjoyed the video and learned something new. In the next one, we're going to go ahead and start working with the checkout page, displaying some item onto the checkout page, and maybe start working with coupon and things like that. That is going to be it. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something new. To make sure to check out some of the courses in the description below. One of them would actually help you to become even a better Python Django developer. That is going to be it. Until the next video, mad love. Peace out.